everybody, just a quick video this afternoon in response to a comment that I had on one of the other videos that I put out last week, I think it was now, from a candidate who was looking for a little bit more insight into my specific views on how lockdown and Covid-19 is going to affect the job market in the long term. So obviously a really difficult question to answer at the moment, and things are changing daily and weekly, and there's so many different moving parts to this situation for different people. I keep saying to people that I'm talking to, this pandemic is affecting everybody, but in very different ways. So it's really hard to give general opinion, I think, particularly in relation to the job market, because we're not seeing mass redundancies across the board. The furlough scheme has obviously been a huge support for a lot of businesses, and it has meant that they haven't had to do that, but it makes the candidate landscape quite fragmented. We don't know how the job market is going to be affected even for the next 6 months, because with the changes coming up in the furlough scheme, and then obviously with it intending to kind of curtail it at the end of, I think it's the end of October, we don't know what state businesses are going to be in at that point, and at that stage whether there will be mass redundancies. So it's really hard to predict, but I do have some opinions that are kind of slowly forming through conversation, through information gathering. So I wanted to just answer a few questions directly from one of my candidates. So he asked, what are our views on the long-term consequences of the lockdown? Really difficult for me to answer that question at this stage. I don't think it'd be fair for me to kind of cast any opinion on that. I don't really have an opinion at this stage, because I think at this moment in time we need to see what happens with the lifting of the restrictions over the next 4 weeks, really. I think the first 2 weeks are going to be critical, and then the impact and the roll-on effect of those 2 weeks, we'll start to see changes and things happening in weeks 3 and 4. So probably in about a month's time I'll be able to maybe give a bit more of an accurate update on that. And secondary question, do you already see that businesses are more keen to hire remote working candidates? So what we're seeing at the moment obviously is that businesses are adapting and they are hiring and onboarding people remotely, which is fantastic. Some businesses are going to be operating a no office policy for longer than others. Retailers are obviously going back in the next couple of weeks, so again it's different for different parts of the market, but I think, for example, some of the clients that we're working with at the moment who were adverse to any kind of flexible working or remote working have quickly come around to that idea and actually are embracing it and are rethinking about how they manage their workforce and how they hire moving forward. Whether a lot of businesses will hire entire remote workforces, it's going to depend on a number of factors. What type of role are you hiring? What is your ethos and culture? Is a face-to-face environment really important to you, and for what reasons? It's a conversation that we're having at the moment as a business, but I think ultimately we are creatures of habit, and I think whether it's fortunately or unfortunately we will revert back to our old ways and the way that we worked previously, but with a more flexible approach. I'm a massive advocate anyway for face-to-face contact, person-to-person meetings, and working in sales, meeting somebody versus talking over video or over the phone is just so different. So I don't think that can be replaced in its entirety. But I do think that now that it's, really been a model that's been proven to work for most businesses, I do hope that most organisations will allow a lot more flexibility. And I think also that hopefully will change the relationship between the employer and the employee somewhat. Again, some businesses have been doing this for a long time, in kind of terms of putting a lot more trust in their employees and giving them that flexibility. There's a couple of really good examples. Virgin have an unlimited holiday allowance for their employees, which I think can well, I think can go one of both ways actually. You either find that somebody is so effective and productive because they feel trusted and valued, they're really good at managing their time and kind of getting things delivered, so they get to, you know, maybe have some extra holiday across the year that they may not have got elsewhere, and so therefore just overall a happier employee. Or you find that people become really competitive and they take less holiday because they become really mired in their work, and, you know, if person next to them isn't taking any holiday and is proving to be, you know, really successful, do they then kind of follow in that line? You know, it's psychologically it's really interesting kind of taking that approach, but I think ultimately it's a positive. I think putting trust in your employees, you get way more out of them, the relationship is stronger, and you know, it means you do have to focus on hiring the right people that are able to work independently, and that's another point, I suppose. Not everybody is happy doing that or is able to do that, and some people really do need quite rigid management or guidance, which is much better delivered face to face. So yeah, I think hopefully businesses will be less black and white and kind of transactional in the way that they hire, and that they will be hiring the person and accommodating their own personal situation, whether they've got childcare commitments or a long commute. And that could help in terms of, you know, reducing carbon emissions, reducing cost for people who don't want to travel as much and therefore might take a lower salary. So it could affect things, yeah, in a number of different ways. It's such a big conversation. So before I run out of time, just quickly onto the second part of the question that my candidate had. Did you geographically widen your search for candidates following all these changes? The short answer is no. I think because we're still quite early on in all of this, and I haven't had a brief come in where they've said, given this situation, we will hire somebody who can only work remotely. I haven't had any of those kind of briefs come through yet, because ultimately I think most businesses are planning on going back to some kind of office-based culture. I think it would be, again, from a kind of human perspective, I think it would be too much of a drastic change for companies to just suddenly revert to that business model if they've never worked that way before. I think it potentially could be something that happens over time for some companies. And then thirdly, they asked, are there any signs that the data job market turns more global? So again, another really good question. My colleague and I were talking about this weeks ago actually, and talking about the industrial park in America that houses the likes of I think it's Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, you know, all the kind of really big tech, social media tech firms over there, and it's really funny, they all pull candidates from each other and people move around within that business park all the time. And actually for companies like that obviously, you know, really at the forefront of digital, and you would think as well, kind of having a very startup feel, entrepreneurial kind of feel to the culture, flexible working, really social, they would be the first to embrace it. And I think we have seen some indicators on that front from Twitter specifically, but whether it works in reality, whether you can run an organisation like that on a purely remote basis, or you know, with the majority of your staff working remotely, is yet to be seen. Could be possible, could work really well. So to answer that question, that would then open up their candidate market on a global scale. You know, you wouldn't need to be based in the US, you'd be based anywhere. And that would be really interesting. It would be great actually. It would do something to the visa process surely, and yeah, that would be a really interesting thing to see happen. So it's, yeah, there are lots of questions around how COVID-19 and lockdown is going to affect the market moving forward. And yeah, I thought it'd be interesting just to share some of those thoughts. They will probably change, those opinions will probably change over the next couple of months. So I'll maybe do a few more kind of thought pieces as we move forward through this. But anyway, hope you are all well, and we have some more content for you across the rest of the week, so keep an eye out on the YouTube channel as per usual.